And so that actually goes into the next like timeline and expectation thing is even if, let's say you have a project that's planned for 4 months and it takes 6, that's still a good value. If you have something that happens and you handle the problem and the customer doesn't have to figure it out themselves and go through that and basically learn to become a contractor, then fix the problem, because they'd have to do that, that's still a great value. So what we've seen on our timelines is we give a projected timeline, right? But we're very clear that this is not a guarantee. This is not a set in stone. The timeline is not a contract. Right. This is me informing you of basically the order of events, how long they typically take. Now your project is fully custom. So our thing, and I'm sure there's shared sentiment on this, is we never make the timeline more important than the quality, because you got to live with it forever. So I'll be the numbers guy for a second. If you take, and I'll do some math on my phone real quick. If you take a house that you're going to live in for say 20 more years, right? A lot of people we work with, they're going to be in the house for maybe 20 more years. That's 1,040 weeks. Even if a project is delayed, something crazy, even if a project is delayed 16 weeks, that's 16 divided by 1,040. That's 1.5% of the time you're going to actually enjoy the project. Is 1.5%? That's a rounding error for most people I deal with. That's how I think of it. I'm like, look, the timeline it's obviously it's important. Yes, it's important, but the quality and having it done correctly is so much more, because you got to live with it.
But isn't that always as far as like setting that expectation, right?
Yes.
What are the real expectations right now?
Yes.
What does it take to start a job? What
Yeah,
does it take to finish
exactly.
a job?
So, with us, I'm usually setting clients about 2.5, 3 months out before we actually start the project, right? And then it just depends. Each project is a little bit different. Most of our bathroom renovations, even small ones, are 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Yeah. It just really depends on what your project is, how much custom stuff you have into it, and the time frame. And again, back to the delays and everything else we've been talking about. But I really do believe it's about setting that expectation, that big change order word that we all hate to talk about. If they do have to come in our industry, it's mainly just because a client changed. That's mainly what our change orders consist of.
Same.
But when we do produce
they get
that
excited
change,
and they want to add something else.
yes.
Yeah.
But when we do produce that change order, we'd like to put a time frame with it too. Hey, this job is going to be X amount of dollars more, plus it's going to delay the job a week or whatever it is. Yeah. And that keeps that expectation. It makes them understand that, oh, well, I didn't think about that, because it never fails how somebody will be like, hey, well, can't we just add this whole room to the remodel? You're already here, right?
And you're still going to finish before the Christmas party, right?
But Gary promised me you'll be out of here by Christmas. Okay, but that's the realization of it, right? We have to set those expectations.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things I want to touch on, especially when we're talking about the timeline, is, and have we translated? We start on the timeline?
Yeah.
Okay, that's still on that, making sure. So at any rate, when we're talking about the timeline, we get a lot that there is, well, I have company in, I would like nobody to show up for these 3 days. We can accommodate that. Not showing up is the easy part because we're really busy, right? But yes, we got this. Now, that delay was only 3 days, right? I'm going to have company in town for 3 days. What does that do to our schedule? The word train wreck comes to mind because everything is connected and everything is on a track and a path. So as soon as you interrupt that schedule, it was only 3 days. But now that was the 3 days that the plumber was going to show up. But now, because we told him he didn't have to come to that job that day, he could do something else. He started another project that's going to take him 2-3 days to start. And that affects the guy that follows the plumber, and that affects the guy that follows him. And so everybody's schedule has to be changed. So logistically, we got people in management spending a lot of time having to reschedule everybody, and we're doing it with an unknown factor because we don't know. That plumber's project could be in a hospital that's taking him a week, and now we can't actually put another plumber on that project because he's on the permit. Right. So our hands are tied. So your 3-day delay could result in a week or 2-week delay, and then that can run into other contractors that we had scheduled that have to change their schedule, and who knows what project they have already started. So when that happens, it can be a much larger impact to your job than you perceive. The best way is tell your company that something is happening or whatever it is that's going on in your life, and if you can't handle the delay, it's kind of like the cop would say, if you don't if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. If you can't handle the delays that could result in it and be prepared for those, do everything in your power to avoid any delay on your project. Okay, so now moving on. Oh, you have something to comment on that?
Well, we're on timeline and expectations, so,
still,
I was gonna say just that real expectations on time, it's anywhere from a month to 2 months just planning a project like this. It might be 2 or 3 weeks before I can get there to give you an initial estimate in order to give you some ideas to think about so that the next time around we can do some actual design and more realistic budgeting estimating. And then you're still probably not ready to commit because you want to go back and redline a few things, balance out the equation, expectation versus what I have to spend in the bank. And then we're going to get to a point of a contract. Now, does that contract require engineering? That might throw another 4 weeks into it at this point in time. It used to take only a couple weeks to get plans. It could be 4 to 8 weeks to get plans from an engineer or architect right now, depending on the detail of the project. And then we're going to apply for permit. Permits that used to take 2 weeks now take 6 weeks, or more, right?
Or more.
Depends on the municipality. We got 26 municipalities just in Pinellas County alone, and they each have their own little different interpretations of what they see in the Florida Building Code. Now we might be ready to start a project 3-4 months down the road after we thought about doing a project, and then when we start, what do we have? We have maybe 4 weeks up to 14 weeks or more. Into the average job. Sometimes, as Jeff put it, it can be getting into an 8 or 10 month job now if materials are creating issues and all that. So, that's what to expect in the way of timelines, and then what to expect in the way of costs. And a lot of people still have it in their head that, new construction only costs $100-$120 a square foot, right? And so they think they're going to build this, 1,000 square foot room addition for $100,000. No, that's not the case. Even in new home construction, I have a good friend of mine that works for Pulte Homes, one of the largest production builders out there, and he says that they are building 4,000 square foot homes and starting at $800,000. Their average price, retail price, selling those homes for is at $214 per square foot. That is today's current rate for them in a big
New
time
construction.
in new construction,
Which is the cheapest.
building 4,000 square feet or more.
Which is highly efficient because you're doing so much volume.
Well, you got an empty lot. You're going to drop off the materials and start putting together your erector set. And as opposed to when I'm tearing apart somebody's house before I can start adding to it, and the materials got dropped on the road, but I have to hand cart them to the backyard. The concrete truck can't get back there, so I got to rent a concrete pump to pump it to the backyard. And again, you're not building 4,000 square foot of stuff. You're building 800 square feet.
Buried infrastructure that you have to work around that you didn't know was there.
In all reality, a lot of people have unrealistic expectations about these bigger projects and additions, whereas the real value of them could be 250 a square foot up to 450 a square foot or even more.
For sure.
And that's what I was going to touch on as well is when you have what about the smaller ones? What about when you get clients that call you and go, hey, hey, I want to add 150 square feet to my house.
It's going to have a master bathroom inside of it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to tell that customer that, hey, look at these prices. It's just this little area. It's just a small bathroom. They don't understand that doesn't improve because actually, if we still have to get the trades out there, we still have to get those things done. It's very difficult on smaller projects as well.
And of course, that same customer doesn't want the 99-cent tile that was on sale. They want the $8 stuff that none of their girlfriends had. And by the way, they picked up this custom piece of glass on their cruise in Italy. Can you put that in the middle of the shower wall? And these are the types of expectations they set for us on what they want out of it. They want these projects they see on house.com or on HGTV, and with no idea of what the real value of some of those trades are.
And here's the best thing about it is we have the skill set to do that.
And
that's
we love those.
that's the good thing here is regardless of the price. Like I think anybody here, we know enough people, we can figure out how to get somebody the money. Like if money is the issue, we can help. Like we can figure out how to get you the money to do it. It doesn't matter. Like banks have enough money to do any project you could ever think of. Right. We can figure out how to get the money. The thing is, the shortage is the people who could do it. And that's really what's being provided here. Like that's actually the real value,
there's no scarcity of money.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't. Like the federal government prints more money anytime they need more. Yeah. So I mean, it's like we can get you more money. The thing is like finding a tile installer who can do a mosaic that's just a square cutout, lay out the whole wall correctly around it so you don't have slivers everywhere and crap.
Well, Gary said it earlier. He says,
Yeah.
you guys that approach you say, oh, yeah, I'm a great tile installer. And my first question over the phone is, what brand of tile saw do you own?
Yeah.
And, well, I've got a grinder, So, tells a lot about the tools that a man owns.
How long is your snap cutter?
Exactly. That'll tell you everything you need to know right there.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we need to, because we can certainly talk for hours more.
For sure.
We can expand on these topics.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.